Yo, what is up, guys? We're actually back with a new what if, and this what if is what if Naruto was Ichigo's reincarnation. Now, I know I didn't really make a video like yesterday, like I was supposed to, but technically, if you check my recent video, it'll still say it is 1 day ago, so I barely made it for my daily uploads. Now, like I said, we're starting a new series for What If Naruto Was Ichigo's Reincarnation. And without further ado, let's get straight into the what if. Now, we actually start this what if when maybe when a baby boy is born. Now, this baby boy would have beautiful orange hair, and this baby boy would be Naruto Uzumaki. Now, I'm not gonna do what Drug X did, where he had, Minato being a whole ass Shinigami. It's gonna be like just Naruto having these powers. Now, let's just say Naruto's power stemmed from a great power that came even before the Sage of the Six Paths and before Kaguya. We know when there was Ryatsu, and people could actually use Ryatsu, but everyone actually stopped using Ryatsu when chakra became a thing. So it became like an instinct. It became instinct. I think I said that right. Extinct, yeah. Now, basically, Naruto would be born just like canon, just like, the same time as in canon. And, Hiruzen's wife, which I actually don't know her name. I literally searched it up, but then, like, I forgot. But would basically clean up the baby for giving it to Kushina. After Minato would basically kind of be a little, have a little, I guess you can say, pout about not being able to hold a baby. But you know the rule: the mother always holds the baby first. Now, after this, Minato would try to reseal the Kyuubi, but this is when Madara would basically attack. Now, Madara would basically have Naruto in his hands after Hiruzen's wife would basically try to do some other test on Naruto to see if he's healthy. But Madara took advantage of this and killed Hiruzen's wife, so we don't need to know her name anymore. Now, after this, Obito would try to use Naruto as leverage to basically get the Nine Tails. Now, he'd pretty much say, give me the Nine Tails Jinchuriki, or this person would die. Now, that's simply how it went. Now, Minato would use his pretty fast speeds to basically pick Naruto up after Obito or Madara would put an explosive tag on, the sheets of baby Naruto. Now, basically, the whole cave would blow up, and Obito would take Kushina to the shrine and rip out the Nine Tails. After this, he'd force it into a summoning pack, and he'd summon it in the village, putting it under his Genjutsu. Now, after this, he'd pretty much have it go rampaging through the village, and yeah, that'd start the Nine Tails attack. Now, Minato would take Naruto home and pretty much put on his Hokage outfit, I guess you could say his cloak, before heading out. Now, Minato would be would summon Gamabunta somewhere around between his distance to the Nine Tails, and he would jump on the Nine Tails with Gamabunta. Like Gamabunta would jump on the Nine Tails' head. Now, after this, Minato would then head towards the Hokage's tower, where the Nine Tails would sense him due to Minato having Kage level chakra, so it's not hard to sense Minato. After this, the Kurama would charge up a Biju Dama before pretty much shooting it straight at Minato. Now, this Biju Dama would pretty much, look like it hit Minato, but Minato would grab it and flying Raijing it out of the village, lowering the damage it could have had on the village. Now, after this, Minato and Hiruzen would pretty much work together to push the Nine Tails out of the village, with Hiruzen using his adamantine staff, and Minato just trying to flying rushing him out of the village and doing anything he can. Now, after this, they'd be out the village, and just to let you know, guys, Minato and Obito had a similar fight to canon, with Minato slamming a Rasengan into Obito's back, basically injuring him. So, back to the present time, or the flashback time. Now, Minato and Kushina would be fighting the Nine Tails, where Kushina would actually use her Uzumaki chains to paralyze the Nine Tails momentarily before Minato would set up the shrine and put baby Naruto on the shrine. Now Kurama, thinking that they're going to seal, himself in Naruto, will try to go kill Naruto with his nail. Now Minato and Kushina would jump in front of the nail, basically saving Naruto, as using like a body shield technique. Now, after this, Minato would seal half of the Nine Tails inside himself before sealing the rest inside Naruto. Now, after this, Minato and Kushina would die after Kushina would tell Hiruzen Naruto's name, which is Naruto. Now, pretty much, in this timeline, the Nine Tails won't actually be much of a factor in this what if. And pretty much, the Nine Tails will be absorbed by Zangetsu. Now, I don't mean old man Zangetsu. I mean a white Zangetsu. Or if you guys are just kind of dumb enough not to read the manga, my bad. I'm not calling you dumb, but basically, if you guys didn't read the manga, Inner Hollow is actually his Zanpakuto. So yeah, sorry about the spoilers, but I mean it was expected. Now, basically, Naruto would grow up similar to how he did in canon, but for some reason in this timeline, he would actually have a sealed Zanpakuto with him, but like nobody know it was a Zanpakuto. It would just be chilling there, and nobody could unsheath it. Only Naruto can. So people, Hiruzen would try to unsheath it with every technique, from the scroll of sealing that could, factor in this to unsheath the sword, like any sealing technique. Now, none of these would work, and pretty much Hiruzen to figure out that this Naruto must be a representation of his soul. So he give it to Naruto when he was 8 years old, right before Naruto would join the academy. I mean, he didn't really give it to him, but he didn't make it look like he gave him a gift. Now Naruto would, for some reason, would be very bonded with this sword. He swing it a lot and pretty much just use his instincts when swinging the sword. He didn't know any real kanjutsu, but he just wanted to swing it. So this is pretty much how he would start his journey in the academy. Now he'd pretty much just be known as the wild guy, since he was the one that just swung the blade. He didn't really know how to use a blade, but he just swung it. So in this timeline, Naruto won't be as weak. Like, he won't be the dead last. He'll be like second or maybe even first, with a little more training, like in the when he's 12 to become a ninja. So we'll actually do a time skip, and basically over these 4 years, Naruto and the rest of the Konoha 12 would be learning and aspiring to be a ninja in Konoha. So we'll time skip to the morning of the graduation exams. Naruto will wake up and pretty much get Zangetsu, or he didn't know it was Zangetsu, it's just his blade, and he would put it onto his back. Now he'd pretty much head outside after eating some ramen and locking his apartment door before walking towards the academy. Now Naruto would head towards the academy, and he'd walk in, preparing himself for the academy exams. Now in this timeline, Naruto won't be taking the ninja exams. He'd be taking the sword exam. Basically, since he doesn't really have chakra, he can't really, participate in the ninja exam. So he'll be taking like the samurai exam. So basically, Naruto will be fighting other samurai in Konoha to basically show that he's superior in the way of the sword. Now, basically, I'm saying basically a lot, but Naruto would actually start fighting all these samurais and quickly, beat them. That's the point. With just his instincts, he didn't learn a single day of Kendo. He hasn't, basically learned any Kendo. That's what I'm trying to interpret, or that's what I'm trying to, say to you. Say to you, the viewer. That's what I mean. So Naruto, with just his instincts, would run against all these samurai, and he would quickly become a ninja. He'd be handed the ninja headband by Iruka. Since let's just say that Iruka didn't give him the ninja exams, but he still gives the headbands. Even if they don't take the Ninja Academy test, they take the Samurai test. So he'd hand him the ninja headband after Naruto passed, and Naruto would pretty much be walking around the village. Now Naruto would then be pretty much asked to talk with Mizuki. Now Mizuki would tell him that he didn't actually pass and he needs to steal the scroll of sealing. Number one, Naruto is Ichigo's reincarnation. Now we know Ichigo is kind of dumb. Yeah, that's just in bland ways. He's kind of dumb. Now, so, Naruto won't be like big brain like Kisuke or Aizen, but he won't be, too dumb. So he's just normal. Now, Naruto will be like, alright, I'll steal the scroll of sealing. Now, this would pretty much start the time when Naruto would just kind of run in, or he wouldn't run in, but he'd feel like he should run. But like when he run, it looked like he just kind of disappeared and appeared somewhere else. Now he'd feel, he'd start to cough a lot before basically feeling like his lungs are getting, like amputated. Yeah, that's a good word, I think. Like he'd start flash typing over and over, trying to get used to this feeling and try to adapt to it. Which around 5 minutes later, he'd get used to the feeling of flash stepping, or that's what the technique, is called. And he'd pretty much be ready to hop in. Now he'd flash step to the Hokage's estate, or try to, and he'd basically sneakily, I think that's a word or proper word, but he'd pretty much be sneaky and head inside the Hokage's estate and take the scroll of sealing. Now after this, Naruto would head out of the Hokage's estate and he'd pretty much head towards the forest. Now once he got to the forest, he'd see Mizuki after 30 minutes, and he'd hand over the scroll to Mizuki. Now Mizuki would, like in the middle of handing the scroll to Mizuki, Mizuki would try to stab Naruto, like in the back or through the heart. Now Naruto just barely managed to flash step, or his sixth sense kind of kicked in, and he flash stepped away. Now Naruto would unsheath the blade with putting the scroll on his back, and he'd get ready to fight. Now Mizuki would pull out a katana and they'd start their fight. Now Mizuki and Naruto would be clashing, and Naruto would go to shatter Mizuki's sword, just like he did to other samurais during his test. But for some reason, when he went to go, shatter it and it clashed, his own blade basically broke, and Mizuki would slash open Naruto's chest. Now Naruto would pretty much be on the floor about to die before basically old man Zangetsu would basically come out using manifest. Now he'd walk up to Ichigo saying, is this the end? Why haven't you called my name? He'd pretty much do to Naruto what he did to Ichigo when he was fighting Kapachi. He just, and basically Naruto would fight actual White Zangetsu in his inner world, and to basically gain shikai. So this will be like a shikai test instead of the are you worthy to still wield me type beat. So basically Naruto would beat Zangetsu, White Zangetsu, but basically saying he wants Zangetsu power, and the katanas would switch between White Zangetsu and Naruto. So Naruto would look at that blade that switched, and he'd pretty much look at his blade in awe. This blade is pretty strong, or it looks strong. Now after this, he'd thank Zangetsu, or old man Zangetsu, before going out of his inner world, or not inner world, but you know what I mean. He would then get up, and his Ryatsu would start to skyrocket. Like even how Aizen was gonna shoot down the Soul Palace, basically, just his Ryatsu gathered similar to that, and they would pretty much make a missile to the air. So everyone outside in the village could see this Ryatsu output. Now Naruto would raise his blade towards Mizuki and pretty much use a imperfect Getsuga Tensho, or unnamed Getsuga Tensho, basically sending it towards Mizuki after he'd pretty much grab Zangetsu by the cloth and start swinging it in the air, gathering momentum before doing the Getsuga, basically sending a huge lunar fang, like a blue lunar fang towards Mizuki, because that's the translation of Getsuga Tensho. Heaven Piercer, Moon Fang, Heaven Piercer. I think it's Heaven Piercer of Heaven, Moon Fang. I think, never mind. But basically, Naruto would quickly, kill Mizuki with that Getsuga. Number one, the only reason Kisuke survived with Ichigo sending a Getsuga at him was, number one, Ichigo didn't gather momentum by grabbing Zangetsu by the cloth. He didn't even do that in the anime, until I think maybe he did it when he was Bankai, and that was just by Zangetsu taking over. He swung the blade. So in the fight in the inner world, he actually never really done that. So that's also a reason it wasn't more powerful. And the other reason is Kisuke used the shield of Benihime. I think it's Nake Benihime, but I may be wrong. But basically, that's the reason why Kisuke survived. But in this timeline, Mizuki doesn't have that technique, and he won't be surviving anytime soon. So Naruto would, easily kill Mizuki, and Iruka would come along and basically see the what's left of Mizuki, and he'd pretty much congratulate Naruto on this B rank mission, I guess you can say, or that's what the third Hokage said when Naruto was talking to him later on that day. Now, basically, Iruka would congratulate Naruto on his, success, and they'd pretty much give, Naruto would give the Scroll of Sealing back to Hiruzen, and Hiruzen would actually congratulate him on his first mission, I guess you could say, and Naruto and Iruka would go celebrate. Now, for the rest of the night, Naruto would be eating some ramen with Iruka, and, that would be the end of that night. Now, Naruto would head home after, waving goodbye to Iruka, and once he'd get home, he'd open the door with his key, and he'd walk in, heading to sleep. Now, the next day, Naruto would wake up and pretty much get his stuff for the day before, putting on his ninja headband and heading out. Naruto in this timeline will be having the Shinigami outfit because when Naruto awakened Shikai, that last night, he actually gained the Shinigami outfit. So when he walked in, people would be like, what's this outfit? But they wouldn't really ask since, it's Naruto. He's like always been bizarre. But basically, Naruto would sit down and by Sasuke, and basically Naruto would be chilling with Sasuke, or Sasuke would be emo, but he'd basically just be sitting next to Sasuke. Now, after the class began, Sakura, would come running in, trying to sit next to Sasuke, and pretty much they tell, Naruto, Sakura, my bad there. Sakura didn't try to basically talk to Naruto, but he'd have to acknowledge him when he's sitting next to Sasuke, basically taking the seat. Now, Sakura would tell Naruto to get out the seat, but Naruto would say that he's not. Basically, just ignoring her. Now, Sakura, knowing that she can't do anything, would pretty much just go find a different seat, and would do the same. Now, the class would start with Iruka telling them about their team placements, with Team 7 being the same, Team 8 being the same, and Team 10 being the same, with Team 7 being Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, Team 8 being Hinata, Shino, and Kiba, and Team 10 being Shikamaru, Ino, and Choji, with their senseis being Asuma, Sarutobi, Kurenai Yuhei, I think, and their Team 7 sensei being Kakashi Hatsuki. Now, Asuma and Kurenai would come pick up their teammates around 5 to 10 minutes after Iruka left for the day. Now, basically, due to Kakashi or Sensei being, why did I say Sensei? But due to Kakashi pretty much always being late and having a habit of being late, he would, Kakashi would be around 2 to 3 hours late. Now, basically, Kakashi would walk in the class after around 2 to 3 hours, and he'd pretty much say hello team, and then he'd pretty much say that they're boring. Now, he'd say that he wants them to meet him in the roof, and then if they don't come in the next 30 seconds, this team won't even be a thing. Basically doing some Aizawa something that Aizawa would do. Now, Naruto would pretty much just use Flash Them, while Sasuke and Sakura would run pretty fast, since, they are pretty fast, they are ninja, so basically they'd head up to the roof in under 30 seconds. Naruto making there in around 2 seconds, while, Sasuke and Sakura would take around 10, maybe 15 at the most. Now, once they'd be upstairs, Kakashi would ask them to introduce themselves. Now, Sakura would ask for an example, and Kakashi would be like, just names, likes, dislikes, and your goal. Now, Kakashi would say, I'm Kakashi Hatake, my likes, none of your concern, my dislikes, none of your concern, and my goal, I don't really have one. And he'd say, your turn. Everyone, Sasuke and Sakura pretty much sweat job, thinking that Kakashi only told them his name. So Sakura would go on about her fangirl shit, and Sasuke would go on about trying to kill Itachi for killing the clan. Not trying, but you know what I mean. Just canon goals. Naruto would say that he wants to be the strongest ninja in the world, and he doesn't want to be Hokage or anything. Or he doesn't say that, but in this timeline, Naruto does not want to be Hokage. But, it is what it is. Now, Naruto would say that his likes are ramen and training with his sword Zangetsu, or training with Zangetsu. Now, Naruto would pretty much look at his sword, and everyone think that he probably named his sword. Now, after this, Naruto would pretty much, like I said, say his goal, and that'd be the end of Naruto's introduction. Now, Kakashi would tell them that they have training the next day, and, they shouldn't be late. Now, Naruto would head home, and pretty much this will be the end of this episode of What If Naruto Was Ichigo's Reincarnation. Got my nose. But, basically, if you guys like this series, I don't know, get us good likes. I don't really know if you like this series, but for the Bleach charts who watch my What Ifs, I know you guys like Ichigo because he's in the MC. So if you like Bleach, then why don't you like the MC? Never mind. Since you are Bleach charts like me, hopefully you'll like this series. And yeah, without further ado, guys, peace out.